We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. I'm Robert Phoenix. The date is the 28th of October, 2016, broadcasting to you live from South Central Texas, the capital, which many of you know is Austin. Welcome to the Friday FARcast. On today's show, we stretch out a little bit longer, go a little bit deeper, a little bit wider than the 15 minutes of flame, which I've been doing pretty much every day now for the last few weeks. And the popularity of that show has really surprised me in that I'm getting a lot of listens, more so than I've done with almost any other program or broadcast. I'll be doing this for, hour and a half, 2 hours, and I probably won't get as many listens as I do on 15 minutes. It's really a great thing, and it basically illustrates where we are as a culture. And this is not to demean anybody that listens and pigeonholing them into a short attention span or attention deficit barrio. I was going to say ghetto. I can say barrio. Ghetto can be a little charged. Well, there are ghettos all over the world, and if the TTP passes, ghettos will become more widespread than ever before in the first and emerging third world countries. But that's perhaps a discussion for later in the show. But anyway, it's where we are with 15 minutes. We've got 15 minutes of our time. We are crushed and crunched with activity, with attention, with information coming at us in all different directions. People listen to multiple shows, multiple podcasts, trying to absorb as much information, stay on top of the game as much as possible, hoping something will sift through that makes a difference, that clicks the tumblers of awareness in not just your heart and your mind, but in the hearts and minds of others. Because people do share information. People do share the capacity, or they have the capacity, and they do share information amongst one another. So this is an amazing age, an amazing time that we're living in. And I've been tweeting about this. I've gotten back onto Twitter lately. I gained a follower today. This is what happens. You go onto Twitter, you start tweeting, people listen, people read, aha, okay, I'll follow this guy. I'm up to a whopping 931 followers on Twitter. My goal it's a modest goal, is to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. And I promise I won't do anything that's sensationalistic in order to do that. Oh, I take that back. Maybe I will. Got to keep something. Got to have something in the back pocket just in case the normal means of conversion don't work. But we are living in an amazing time. I've been tweeting about this. I wrote about this over on Facebook. And, you know, we're in Uranus and Aries in the third decan, which is the Sagittarian decan. And we're doing our best to get to truth. The radical means and forms of expression of truth through Uranian technologies, i.e. social media, cell phones, all the things that we have been gifted with for better or worse. These instruments of distraction and denial can also be used for illumination, information, and enlightening purposes. It all depends on what we do with them. Are they inherently evil? The answer, I believe, is no. I don't. It takes willpower. It takes consciousness. It takes awareness to be able to sit something down and say, I'm done with this. I don't have to be on my phone. You know, and I'm as guilty of it as just about anybody else. Here's something I'll throw out to you as a challenge. The next time you're at a restaurant, don't take out your cell phone. Or if you take it out, put it on the table and don't do anything. Because there's that dead time, right? There's the lag time. There's the downtime. First, you have to sit down, and then you know, the water comes, the waitress comes, but she generally will not take your order. So there's that lag time. Don't use your cell phone. Then she takes the order. Don't use your cell phone. Then you wait for the order, and the food comes. Okay, most of the time, people will not be on their cell phone while they're eating. Safe zone. Then the food leaves. Downtime. Waiting for her to come back and ask if you want dessert or anything else. Don't use your cell phone. She leaves, goes to get the check. More lag time. Don't use your cell phone. You pay, she takes the check away. Don't use your cell phone. The change comes, or the credit card slip comes, you sign it, you get up, you get out, you're out of the restaurant. You have faced and met the no cell phone challenge. Try it. Try it. First of all, see if you can remember it, number one. And number two, see if you can get through it. I'm going to do it today because I have my son today. I'll have him all weekend. And we have a ritual. I take him out for some kind of food on Friday. And it's usually like a burger or taco or something like that. Today, no cell phone. Today, no cell phone. When we go out to eat, put it down. You see, we have to exercise conscious command and control over the technologies so that they don't do it with us. Right? They're not proliferating. Because ultimately what's going to happen is that there's going to be this invasive kind of interface between technology and human biology, and it'll be inside of us. It's almost inside of us now. And I don't know if you really want to stare down that reality because it is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And I'm sure there are people out there, who is this guy? What the hell is he talking about? He must be over 50. I know what I'm talking about. I don't think you really want a device in between your finger and your thumb that can trigger all kinds of interesting reactions inside of you or interactions. I just don't think you want that. Some people might think it's cool. I don't. I see into the future and I see where it's headed and I see how it can impact people. By the way, I've heard, now you're going to have to verify this and validate this on your own. Don't take it from me as gospel. But I've heard that by 2017, all Germans will be chipped. 2017, all Germans will be chipped. Why? Well, first of all, that's the agenda for the entire planet. Again, I'm not paranoid. I'm a realist, and I've seen the plans. I've seen the blueprints. I have seen the social blueprint. It's evident. Uranus and Taurus is coming. We're going to be dealing with the interface of technology into the body, Taurus, right? Right now, we're dealing with the interface of technology from the perspective of the will. And we're doing our best to use technology to broadcast some relationship to truth. Saturn, Sagittarius, bearing down on the ability to be sovereign, truthful, honest. The nature of Sagittarius. I put up a post on Facebook. It's actually gotten some reposts. People have shared it. Well, how about that? 16 minutes into the show, disconnected. God, it was such a great rant too. I wonder if it's going to be doubled up and it will be on the show itself. Man, somebody called in here. Let's see who it is. Hello there. Hello. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you hear me? Okay, put you back on hold. Hello there.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Robert. It's Barbara. There was no sound, so wait a minute.
Yeah, you know what happened? I got disconnected.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so you're back on, so I can get off the phone.
Okay, well, thank you for being persistent, Barbara.
I just wanted to check for you. Phone works.
Oh, you're a sweetie. How are you doing?
Okay, hanging in there.
Okay.
Looking forward to the show. Love the 15-minute thing.
Good. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad. It's been a lot of fun to do it, and it's been more successful than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And it's real manageable for everybody. So I think it's been good.
Good choice. All right, I'm getting off the phone, okay?
Okay. Thanks for checking in.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye. You got to love it. People checking in, making sure the show is up and running. Let me give you, if you've missed the last 15 minutes, I basically gave you the secret to the universe in the lottery numbers for this weekend for Powerball. They came to me in a dream. Unfortunately, I can't give them out now. I've had a memory wipe of the last 15 minutes. No, what I was talking about is I was talking about the ability of the internet to, not just the internet, but these tools that we have at our disposal to be a force of revelation and revolution. And speaking of revolution, November 2nd is coming up. And I'm going to talk about November 2nd. Historically, it's a very interesting day, historically. So I put out, so now, we've had I remember the ice bucket challenge and how bizarre that was. So I put out the cell phone challenge. And the cell phone challenge is next time you go out to eat, don't use your cell phone for the entire time. What do we have here? So don't use your cell phone for the entire time. You go to the restaurant, you wait to be seated, don't use it. You get seated, you wait for the waitress, don't use it. The waitress comes and takes your order, don't use it between the order and the meal. The meal comes, of course you're going to eat. You're finished. She takes it away, asks for dessert. If you don't get it, lag between that and the check, don't use your cell phone. Check comes, pay for the check, go outside. You have met the cell phone challenge by not taking your cell phone out over one meal. And throw the challenge down to everybody at your table. Kids, your partner, whoever you're with. Somebody calls you, can I call you back? I'm eating. Let's exercise some self-restraint. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we want to be able to have a conscious relationship with technology. I'm guilty of it sometimes. I see myself distracted, bored, downtime. Oh, let me go into my cell phone. Maybe there's somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's ideas that I'll find interesting in a moment. No, you've got your own thoughts and your own ideas. Let them rise to the surface. Don't replace them with the simulacra of thought, which is what it is. Now, the technology, and this is what I was talking about in the first 14 minutes, is becoming more internalized. And I heard today Dr. Leonard Coleman, who is from Germany, he was talking about how the chip is going to be mandated in 2017 in Germany. Now, don't take my word for it. Go online, root around, look around, see if that's actually true. But this guy is from Germany, and he's talking about that this is the plan. And the reason why they're fast-tracking the chip from a administrative level is that they have, and they're bringing in, apparently, according to Dr. Leonard Coleman, they're bringing in 20,000 people a day into Germany. 20,000 people a day. A day! Give Germany a year and they will be overrun by refugees, by the North Africans, by weaponized masses, right? And of course, the problem is that, we've created this situation. We've created it through this unwinnable war that took place after 9/11/2001. And it's escalated and it's escalated and that escalated. And we've had 15 years of trauma and bombing and strafing that region of the world. And then we're throwing down and throwing in these other parts of that region coming from North Africa, Angola, Sudan, Somalia. And they're being sort of included in this swath. It's a problem. But again, and I've talked about this before, you don't see the Saudi Arabians jumping forward, jumping out and saying, hey, come on over here. We've got a really nice safe zone over here. You don't see the Chinese doing it. You don't see the Russians doing it. It's being foisted upon Northern Europe. 20,000 people a day, and the chip will be used to track them, just like animals, to track them. And of course, it would be unfair if just the refugees or the migrants got the chip. You gotta have everybody have the chip. You don't want them to feel singled out. So come on, do the right thing, do the good thing. You take the chip too. So anyway, Dr. Leonard Coleman, look him up. Chip Germany, 2017. But here in this country, we still have some time. Now, I think Trump is going to get elected. By the way, I talked about the word election. And if you look at the word election, it's L, right? L, action. And action is a process. Resurrection, right? That's a process. Insurrection, that's a process. Election is a process. Just like, action is a process. Just bottom line. Okay? It is the state of becoming, or it is the state of formation. L represents what? L eats, which also is connected to Saturn. Saturn. So election is a process in which we are engaged with Saturn. It is a Saturnine process. It is the 10th house. It is Capricorn. And every 4 years, we have a ritual to Saturn, which is called the election. That's what it is. It's a ritual to Saturn. When you hit the ballot box, you are essentially investing in the Saturnian energies of this system and the planet. And it has been set up that way. So at the very least now, we have Uranus and Aries, and we have the potential for technology to level the playing field a little bit. And by the way, it is available to anybody on both sides of the ledger sheet, right or left, conservative, progressive, wherever you are, it's there. You can tap into it. And I told the story about how these young people were down in Georgia. I think it's called altnews.com. It's a website, alternative news website, run by this young guy. I think he's from the South. Anyway, he was connecting with a young woman who was using her cell phone to videotape these buses coming in to Georgia, early elections, wrapped. The buses are wrapped in the Kane Clinton Stronger Together wrap. It's like a giant prophylactic for the bus. You can't see in there, by the way. You just see the wrap. And so these buses are coming in and early voting at the polls. Now, it's quite possible that these are legit voters from districts inside of Georgia where they're busing them in. That's, hey, there's nothing illegal about that. But there's a possibility that that might not be the case. And I think it's ironic. This is what I talked about. This is what you missed. I'm just going backwards in time here. I think it's ironic that on the one hand, we're seeing, hey, Clinton Kane Stronger Together. There's the bus. It's out there. But on the other hand, we can't see in, right? Because it's completely, takes care of the window space. So it's paradoxical. But the other thing that they captured is this bus was dumping its waste on a curb. It's like they couldn't even go to a waste station. Let's just pull over to the curb. Let's just dump this shit out here. It's a bad look. It is a bad look no matter how you slice or dice it. It's illegal. It's unsanitary. And it's just a bad look. It's a terrible metaphor. So here we are. We're on the run-up to the election. And I got a really cool email today from a client who signed up for the everything reading. Remember, I wear a number of different hats, and astrologer is one of them. And I do the everything reading, which is a really cool reading where I get into your birth chart with transits. I get into the draconic chart, which is the chart of the soul. I get into your numbers, your numerology, your name. I also get into the Mayan calendar. And this is the dream spell and Jose Arguelles' interpretation. And it's your specific Mayan signature. I put it all together. It's a 2-hour reading. And this fellow purchased the reading, which is great. And he sent me an email. He says that he doesn't agree with me politically, and yet he still wanted to connect with me as an astrologer. I think that's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. And, the same thing goes. If you're somebody who's conservative or independent, and by the way, I don't necessarily think I'm conservative, although some people might say I am. I'm actually more of a libertarian and letting people kind of live their lives and getting out of the way. And I'm firmly a believer in less government. Firmly a believer in less government. I'm a bottom up versus a top down guy, which some people would say, well, that's democratic and that's versus. No, I think the bottom up is building structures so that people can empower themselves, so they can have lives that are worthwhile, worthy of living. And now, what's really interesting is that we're kind of living in a false paradigm in some ways. So even those kinds of ideas can tend to be a bit antiquated. And yet, it is the paradigm that we're still being given, the matrix that we're still being given to live in, which is get a job, earn some money, save some money, and have maybe some property, a life, self-esteem, build. Yes, to some degree, that is still part of the program. But the false reality around it is that we're probably sitting on extremely sophisticated technology that allows us to have free or almost free energy, which would be a game changer overnight if they decided to unlock that key or unlock that lock, right? It would be, absolutely. And all of a sudden, we're having a very different discussion. We're having a very different kind of intersection with reality, because all the things that we would need to do in order to get the things that we need in order to survive come to us in a very different kind of way. And all of a sudden, we're kind of moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we're less involved in the act of procuring goods or assets in order to survive, and we're thinking about other things. We're moving our consciousness into higher planes of contemplation. But that day is not here yet. And so we're living in a paradigm still where we are trying our very best to succeed, to live, to have a respectable existence, or an existence that has self-respect. Let me share you a story about one of the challenges of our time, and we're going to see more and more of this. Stan Kroenke, who is the owner of the St. Louis Rams, I take that back, Los Angeles Rams, he moved them from St. Louis. Stan Kroenke recently purchased a huge amount of acreage in Texas, Wichita County, which ironically was where some of the voting irregularities have popped up. He bought the equivalent of the state of Rhode Island. Think about that. Stan Kroenke now owns a parcel inside Texas, state of Rhode Island, the size of the state of Rhode Island. Once the purchase was finalized, he sent out letters. Now, this is a fairly sparsely populated area. There's water there. There's just not a lot of urban or even suburban development. You've got people living on fixed incomes, on homes by ponds and lakes, and thinking that they could just kind of, live out their days there. There was a guy who committed suicide. One of the people that Kroenke is evicting committed suicide. No place to go. There's no place to go. Fixed income. Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? Probably living paycheck to paycheck. And look, I'm not an advocate of suicide, but sometimes people get to a point where their life is so hopeless, and they see down the line, and they say, there's no way for me to make up the shortfall here. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I may as well just pull the plug now. This is what this guy did. Stan Kroenke is very fortunate. He married one of Sam Walton's daughters. Now, that's not to say that Kroenke didn't have his own money when he came into baby girl Walton's life, but it's not the equivalent of what he married into. Stan Kroenke could have given those people seed money easily. This is a guy that has moved his team to Los Angeles and is building a multi-billion-dollar stadium with his own money. He could have afforded to give these people $50,000 apiece to go live somewhere else. And the guy said, hey, I can't afford to hire a lawyer to fight this. Now, this is America. Stan Kroenke can go buy that land if he has the resources, he has the money, which he does. What he didn't have is the heart. Now, I'm sure that there will be some of these people who will relocate, and hopefully they'll find some form of housing and employable means, but this is a story that is going to become more prevalent as this divide between the haves and the have-nots continues to get greater and greater and greater, unless, of course, we reinvest in the country, which is theoretically what Donald Trump is pimping to the American people. And let's hope he's right, and let's hope he's a man of his word. You know, he recently talked with the African-American community, as he calls them, the Black American community, and said, look, you guys have been screwed over, and I'm going to reinvest in your community. And here's what I plan on doing. First of all, I'm going to make your area safe. Well, that means more police. Second of all, he says, I'm going to incentivize companies to come back to this country and land in your neighborhoods. How about that? How about that as an idea? That's kind of an original idea. And then he's going to give a holiday tax to any businesses that want to set up inside the African American communities. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you a holiday tax. I'm going to incentivize you to come in here and run a business. Now, this is counter to the model that was created with Lyndon Johnson during the formation of the Great Society, which is the welfare state. And this is kind of the bottom-up model that I'm talking about. It's not unique. You know, it's kind of like capitalism 101. But I think it's something that we need to reinvest in. And if Trump is smart, one of the first things he'll do is he'll get on board with the frickin' hemp industry, and he'll bring the hemp industry into the 21st century so that we could have boutique businesses, mom and pops. You could reinvest in the inner city easily with fashion, product, innovation, and it can all be hemp-based. This is if Trump gets elected, he's got to make an inroad to the hemp economy. It's essential. You know, when John Trudell was alive, I had him on my show a couple of times, and you know, I went over the statistics with hemp and what's available with hemp. And it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. The products and the potential for economic growth with hemp. It is a game changer, an absolute game changer. And we have these young people whose minds are hungry. They're you know, look, they may be vaccinated, they may be media toxified, but the young mind is a hungry mind. It is a mind that brims with ideas and possibility. And you get these kids out of school or even high school, and you turn them on to the potential of hemp. And then you throw in things like 3D printers with hemp, and all of a sudden, there's an explosion of new products, an explosion of a microeconomy, boutique businesses. I think it's incredibly exciting. These are the tools we need to give our kids. And if Trump is smart, he'd get in there and he'd rubber stamp hemp. Now, as we know, multinationals and the conglomerates want to get a piece of the action. And not just a piece of the action, they want to run the whole thing. So he would have to figure out a way to satisfy those jackals while there is 20% of the industry, 25%, maybe 30% of the industry in the marketplace that is set aside for independent growth. Because that's what this country needs. Hemp is a game changer. Getting young minds wrapped around it is key. It's critical. The youth, I know this is such a cliche, but the youth, they're the greatest resource we have. They're the greatest resource we have. They come into the system generally fresh. although the millennials were certainly a bit more jaded than most. We, as a society and as a culture, must stare down entropy. We must stare down political and social ennui. We must reinvest in values, ultimately, that are positive, that do embrace things like growth, economy, liberty, freedom for everybody. Everybody. Now, we've got clearly some challenges. Clearly, there are challenges. But I think the most important thing is for us to create some momentum. And the first way we create momentum is we put the brakes on what's happening now, and then we put this thing in reverse, go backwards, turn around, take a different route. And this is what has to take place. You know, people say to me, I get people send me email all the time. Did you know that Trump is a Jesuit? Did you know that Trump and Hillary were partying with Henry Kissinger? Did you know this about Trump? Did you know that about Trump? Yes, absolutely. Trump is not a saint. He's not a saint. Trump could be a complete stalking horse of Hillary. Trump could be the wicker man, burning, inflamed, the ashes of the white American middle-class male, the wasp, charred, ground into ashes. Yes, absolutely, all these things. I've looked at all the scenarios, trust me. And yet he's still there, and yet there is a populace from a momentum perspective that is growing and growing and growing and growing. This cannot be denied. You get 200 people at a Hillary event, you get 30,000 people at a Trump event. What does that mean? Is it the Trump cult of personality, or is it the fact that something that has been sleeping and dormant inside of people has been awakened? I caught so much shit on Facebook from people that I really like and I respect, and they're shouting me down. Don't you know the game is rigged? I don't care. I don't care. What I care about is energy. What I care about, and by the way, if Trump does lose, this is not going to be a kick in the nuts. It is not going to be a gut punch. Far from it. Far from it. Because a sleeping giant has been awakened. This is what's happened. It's about energy. Take Trump out of the equation. And I would tell these people, it's about energy. It's about waking up. And the process has begun. And not only has the process begun, but it has shown itself to be in stark contrast to the mainstream media, who have been our somnambulistic gatekeepers for decades. Decades. I can't even believe, and I can't really stand Newt Gingrich. You know, this is the guy that brought us NAFTA. Dumped his wife who had cancer for another woman. I can't abide by that. I'm not privy to the inside of that relationship, but it just doesn't fit for me. And yet I'm rooting for him against Megyn Kelly. This is the world we're living in now. It's about energy. It's about momentum. Because politically, as far as my political beliefs and views go, I'm just about less government. I'm more about the individual. I think people have a much better handle on reality than our bureaucrats, our administrators, the agents of L give us credit for. Look at what's happened with Spain. Spain hasn't had a government in the last 10 months. Things seem to be going okay over there. The streets are clean. Bills get paid. Spaniards are doing okay. We have been hypnotized and lulled into the notion that we need government. No, government needs us. The agents of Saturn, the elite, need us. Not the other way around. We'd be just fine if we had a modicum of control and a modicum of administration happening from the local level on up. That's it. That's it. And the government at a federal level really should be the agent that manages relationships between interstate commerce and transit. That's really all the federal government should do. Right? That's it. Because the mediator between the states, it is leading from behind. And as far as international affairs go, as far as what's going on out there, here's my political belief. I'm more of an isolationist. Sorry, just the way it is. You know, let's take care of business here. Our systems, our immune system, our political, our social, our economic immune system better, stronger. We're operating at a deficit. And once we get to a place where it's really strong and vibrant and healthy, and we look around at our relationships with the rest of the world, which, by the way, is a complete con job anyway. And then we say, well, we want to invest here. We want to get involved in this. What do you think Russia does? Do you think Russia wants to be everything to the rest of the world? No. Do you think China does? No. China now owns 98% of the precious metals of the world, not the precious metals, the rare earth minerals. China's in possession of 98%. Does China have some kind of wide-ranging ideology that they want to help? They want to intervene? Of course they don't. China's interest is all about China, self-interest. Now, some of that takes place here under the aegis of helping and spreading of democracy, which is really just, again, a cover. But these countries are very self-interested. Meanwhile, we're engaged in activities and efforts where we're playing the role of cop and police for the rest of the world. And it's debilitating. It's absolutely debilitating. We've become, at one point in time, the United States was beloved. And now we've become the most detested nation on the planet. And that's really all happened in the last 20 years. It all happened since 9/11. We need to regain that. I wanted to talk about November 2nd. It's a very interesting day. And came to my attention recently because my girlfriend had a dream about November 2nd. And so I looked it up. And why don't we do this? I'm going to use this as a bit of a tease. This is what they do in radio. They have a tease. I'm going to play some music. And on the other side of the music, I'm going to get into November 2nd and why it's such an interesting day. And it's right around the corner here. So in order to keep the copyright cops off my back, I've loaded a piece of my music, which I did many years ago. So I was making this music around 2008. So this is called Fontanic, and I built it around a vocal sample by the French singer Brigitte Fontaine. You're listening to the Friday FARcast. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 39 seconds.
Les chauffeurs de taxi répondent par tout le bruit que la peur n'évite pas le danger.
A little bit of cosmopolitan fare for you here on the Friday FARcast. Robert Phoenix, and that is my alter ego, Dominatrix, with Fontanic. It is 12:54 here in Austin, Texas. We've got about an hour and 5 minutes left in the show, and perhaps we'll go the whole distance. My girlfriend signed up for. She wanted to go see Hillary in Arizona because Hillary was going to be there, but then Hillary didn't show up. Instead, they sent Michelle Obama, Chelsea Clinton, and Bernie Sanders to this event. So she went. She got on a list. They said, yes, you can come. And by the time she got there, which was early, by the way, they weren't letting anybody in. Now, contrast this with the Trump event where her and her daughter went. Everybody got in. Very different, dynamic there. Okay. Now, in order to get the Trump tickets, you had to sign up for the Trump email. You had to go through and do a process, right? And once you're in, you got it. Boom, done. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. The difference is that once she signed up with Trump, she got one email asking for a donation. One. She gets on the average 2 to 3 emails a day from the Hillary camp. I'll read you the latest one. You've never stopped pouring your heart into this long, tough race, and we never could have made it this far without you. Of course, they have no idea who she is. So as we approach our final critical end-of-month deadline, I want to make sure you get the credit you deserve. Can you chip in just $1 right now? When you do, we'll put your name on our website to show the world that you were one of our best supporters in one of the most important moments of the entire campaign. And as a bonus, you'll also get that free sticker. It's about more than just the money. Your dollar is a declaration you're still fighting by my side, even as this election draws to a close. It's about saying that you're proud to be on this team. Just that single dollar is all it takes to become part of history, to own a part of this campaign, and to be publicly recognized as one of the supporters powering us over the finish line. Will you join 13 people from your area and chip in $1 today to help us total 3 million donors by Monday night? You're one of our most committed supporters. If you've saved your payment information, your donation will go through immediately. And then there are 5 links all set up with her first name, donate now $1, donate now $5. So this is going out to millions of people, and each one of these is personalized. Excuse me. And then this isn't my story, this is our story. Let's go win. Hillary. And then it's got her supporter record. Last contribution not available. Days until election 11. Suggested contribution $1. She has 2 or 3 of these a day. Got one from Trump. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just letting you know. November 2nd is coming up. What an interesting day November 2nd is the 306th day of the year, 307 in leap years. 59 days left in the calendar. The date is more likely to fall on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, 58 and 400 years each. So this year it will fall on a Wednesday. Let's go over some of the events that happened on November 2nd. Save the 2 best events for last year, okay? All right. It is a revolutionary day, November 2nd. So in 1795, actually, let's go back. Let's go back even further. Let's go back even further. In 1675, Plymouth Colony Governor Josiah Winslow leads a colonial militia against the Narragansett. Of course, it's an Indian tribe, Native American tribe, during King Philip's War. That was in 1675. In 1795, the French Directory, a 5-man revolutionary government, is created. North and South Dakota were both admitted as the 39th and 40th states on the 2nd of November. Now, I bet you also didn't know that cheerleading, that wonderful sideline show that is a part of college football and many sports, is started on November 2nd. Started at the University of Minnesota. Johnny Campbell began leading the crowd and cheering on the football team. Bulgaria in 1912 defeated the Ottoman Empire on November 2nd. And in 1914, World War I, the Russian Empire declared war on the Ottoman Empire. Okay, now I'm saving sort of the best for last year. There's some interesting dates here in terms of broadcast and media. In 1920, KDKA of Pittsburgh started broadcasting as the first commercial radio station in the United States. How about that? The first broadcast is the results of the United States presidential election in 1920. So we have the presidential election and the first broadcast on a commercial station all linked together through Pittsburgh KDKA. Haile Selassie became the emperor of Ethiopia on November 2nd. Here's another broadcasting piece. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is established on November 2nd. Same day, same year, the BBC initiates BBC television service, the world's first regular high definition, that's what they called it back then, in 1964, renamed BBC One in 1964. So BBC television started on November 2nd, 1936. Now, remember that Uranus and Aries, which takes place between 1926 and 1933, is when all the great inventions of the 20th century, pretty much all of them are developed, are indeed developed. And here we see on the back end, 1936, the commercial application with the CBC and the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, right? Okay, good. Howard Hughes, on November 2nd, piloted the only flight of the Spruce Goose. Maybe he didn't pilot it, but the Spruce Goose took off November 2nd, 1947. Its one and only flight. Let's see, what else do we have on November 2nd? This is another broadcast piece. The first great quiz show scandal, the 21 game with Charles Van Doren, breaks on November 2nd. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, here's another revolutionary event. 1963. South Vietnamese President Ngo Dinh Diem is assassinated following a military coup, which of course paves the way for the Vietnam War, another revolutionary moment. 1964, King Saud of Saudi Arabia, deposed by a family coup and replaced by his half-brother Faisal. Another revolutionary moment. November 2nd. The Vietnam War, 1967, LBJ and the wise men conclude that the American people should be given more optimistic reports on the progress of the war. So this is basically them saying, hey, look, let's bullshit them. It's a winnable war, it's a winnable war, it's a winnable war, it's a winnable war, it's not a winnable war. So sorry. So sorry we led you down that path. But here we go. These are the two events that are associated with November 2nd that are very interesting. That's not to say that some of those other dates aren't interesting. But it's the timing of these two events which really turn the pages of history in the 20th century, in the 21st century. And because they are synchronized and happening on the same day, one has to have a sense here that there is the hidden hand moving people, places, and events in synchronous fashion. 1917, November 2nd, the Balfour Declaration proclaims British support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, with a clear understanding that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities. Well, surely the Balfour Declaration was violated again and again and again and again and again, but it set up this mandate that, hey, this is where you're going to go. This is where your people are going to go. Now, I think that it was done so that Western Europe could begin to move, the Ashkenazi population out of Western Europe and say, hey, here you go. We've got you set up. Here's a nice place for you, Palestine. Go do it. Well, of course, the Zionist Congress was behind this. The Rothschilds eventually got behind it. And then we have this little thing called World War II. And at that point, of course, the Ashkenazim population of Western Europe suffered a social trauma unlike anything we've ever seen before. Probably to the large extent to get them out of Western Europe. Hey, see how bad this is? Go over here. We've created this for you. Get out of Dodge. You don't have to deal with this stuff. Because, the reports were that even after the Balfour Declaration took place, there were Ashkenazim families, Jewish families in West Europe who did not want to leave. They were enjoying their lives. They had businesses. They were industrialists. It was urban. Did they really want to go and bang out a hard scrabble existence and deal with the existing people? Just uproot their lives? No, you'd have to have some sort of a social cataclysm in order for them to do that. But the Balfour Declaration happens in 1917. Guess what happens? On the very same day, the Military Revolutionary Committee of the Petrograd Soviet, in charge of preparation and carrying out the Russian Revolution, holds its first meeting. How about that? On this day, or on November 2nd, 1917, we have the Balfour Declaration and the Revolutionary Committee, the Military Revolutionary Committee. Just to remind you, now they formed on the 19th of October, but they meet for the first time. They meet for the first time on the 2nd of November. Now, the Petrograd Military Revolutionary Committee, of course, was guided by who? By Lenin. Second in command, Leon Trotsky. So this is the formation of the Communist Party, and they meet for the first time on November 2nd. Now, on November 8th, so I'll give you the breakdown. This is interesting because we have an election on November 8th. From October 29th through November 11th, 1917, a body of the Petrograd Soviet, later the All-Russian Central Executive Committee. From November 8th, 1917 to December 18th, 1917, the committee was the highest extraordinary body of state power. All its activities were conducted under the supervision of the Central Committee of the RSDLP and Lenin, who was a member personally. They were also known as the Petrograd Milrevkom, right, Military Revolutionary Committee. So it says here, inception, although it took its form and inspiration from the earlier Committee for Struggle Against the Counter-Revolution of the Kornilov affair, the Military Revolutionary Committee itself was only formed during the last weeks and indeed days of the provisional government's existence. On October 18th, 1917, General Polkovnikov, that's right, the commander of the Petrograd Military District, ordered the bulk of the capital's garrison units, those considered by the provisional government to be politically unreliable, to prepare for the immediate transfer to the front. So they're going to throw them out to the Russian front, get them out. Given the inflamed political atmosphere, this was perhaps unsurprisingly a fatal miscalculation on behalf of Alexander Kerensky. It quickly sparked a general mutiny, with most garrison units openly declaring loyalty to the Petrograd Soviets. It was in the city's Soviets on 22 October that the crisis truly exploded, and the body by now, with a Bolshevik majority, adopted a militant resolution authored by Leon Trotsky that specifically called for the creation of a military revolutionary center to facilitate the revolutionary defense of Petrograd from the attacks being openly prepared by military and civil Kornilovites. Over the following days, the composition and structure of this new military revolutionary committee was decided upon, albeit without reference to Trotsky's inflammatory provocations of the original government. And the body was ratified by the Soviets on 29 October. It began to gather in the Smolny on 31 October, and its first official meeting was not held until November 2nd. This is the group that facilitates the final stages and the overthrow of the Russian Revolution. So here we have, on one day, November 2nd, 1917, the first meeting of the group that is going to turn the entire planet on its ear with the Russian Revolution and the Balfour Declaration. And we are coming up to November 2nd. Now, I am not saying that we are going to have a similar event here on November 2nd, but from the energy of the day, it is something you need to keep in mind. Now, we're dealing with the moon in Sagittarius on November 2nd, conjunct Saturn in Sagittarius on that day, right? And Venus is there too. And as far as relating to somebody else and somebody else in their chart, November 2nd could be a very interesting day for Donald Trump, and not in a positive way, because these planets, Moon, Saturn, Venus, are all sitting on his south node and his natal moon in Sagittarius in his chart. Trump was born on a lunar eclipse. How about that? I was born on a solar eclipse. Trump was born on a lunar eclipse. We can get into a whole dissertation of what that means in terms of his relationship with women, his mother, Sagittarius, freedom, home, homeland, the relationship between the moon and the home, marrying women from other countries, Sagittarius. He did, I was corrected. He did marry Marla Maples. I was not aware of that. He did. So Trump has married the three major women in his life, two of whom have been from other countries. So November 2nd could be a very powerful day for him. Could be another one of those days of revelation in the Trump camp and in the Trump campaign. By the way, did you see the interview with Dana? D-A-N, not Dana, Dana Bash? For a long time, I heard that name, Dana Bash, and I thought it was a guy. because I didn't know who Dan Abash was. I thought it was some guy named Dan Abash. Like, Abash, like maybe he was from someplace in the Middle East. But no, it's a woman, Dan Abash. See, you learn something new every day. So here's this interview with Dan Abash with Trump and his wife. And she's this little tiny thing. And Trump and his wife are just towering over her. And it's actually kind of funny to watch. First of all, from the displacement of the height perspective. Second of all, she's, again, asking this question of Trump over and over again. This is the new question now. Are you going to write a check? 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 Are you going to spend your own money? Because what they want is here's what they want to do. They want to show that Trump is cheap. And that if he loses, it's because he didn't write a check. This is what they want to do. Oh, see people, he didn't write that check. He didn't care about you. He didn't go out of pocket to fight Hillary as they're going down the stretch. And I've seen this. I saw Stephanopoulos asking the question. I mean, it's like these people get their memos and their talking points. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to talk about. They get it from the committee central, or the central committee, using a communistic term. And by the way, interviews are no longer interviews. They are interrogations. It's like people are at Guantanamo when they're being interviewed. They're being interrogated. And by the way, have you ever noticed that when a person comes back and this is classic. This is classic. Megyn Kelly was calling Donald Trump a sexual predator. And she had no problem with it. And again, Newt Gingrich, who's, again, I'm not a fan. He's not very likable to me. But he was very cool with her. And he said, you're obsessed with sex. And then he started to make the connection between Bill Clinton and his sexual predation. And he challenged Megyn Kelly to use the word sexual predator as it related to Bill Clinton. And she wouldn't do it. She would not do it. So go ahead, say it. Say it. Use the word sexual predators in relationship to Bill Clinton. She wouldn't do it. And not only would she not do it, she would not acknowledge it. Now, this is a key tactic. And we've seen Hillary Clinton do this again and again and again. Now, Trump, maybe it's because he's not as savvy. The first debate, that's all he did. He just answered the question again and again and again. And he wound up going down into these rat holes where he's trying to explain himself. And he just took the bait again and again and again. If you watch Hillary Clinton, she won't even answer the question. She won't acknowledge it. By acknowledging the question, you form a circuit, a loop current of consent. And if there is the answer to a question, it is a total pivot. It is, I'm going to answer the question and I'm going to go this way. And I'm not even going to talk about that thing that you just asked me. No. So interviews are no longer interviews, they're interrogations. This is the climate we live in. It's okay, it's Uranus and Aries. We're really kind of under a state of war, a condition of war. Believe it or not, we are. I mean, clearly, from a place of cognitive dissonance, we're at war. If you haven't figured that out, you're not awake. We are at war in the Middle East. We've been at war in the Middle East since 2001, and the war has escalated, and it's moved into various locations: Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan. The theater of war has been going on there for quite a long time. You want to know how I know? Because we have veterans that come home and wind up killing themselves to the tune of about 5 per day. That's right, about 5 per day. So we have people coming home from these wars and having a very difficult time and being abandoned by our system. By the way, my good friend and colleague, Shauna Home, is working on a cookbook and a diet for vets. How about that? She's working on that right now. That book has the potential of being not just popular, but also very helpful from a nutritional standpoint from people that come home in a deep, deep place of trauma. So I suggest you check out Shauna, check out her website. She's done some tremendous work already. She's got some books that she's written about her relationship with shamanism, plant medicine. Go check her out, support her, go buy her books so that she can continue her work and create another book which is going to help our veterans who are so tortured and so traumatized. I had June O'Brien on last week, and people have been raving about the interview. Now, I'm the guy that asks the questions. This is what I do. But June is extraordinary, and she's special. She is one of our she's one of our true resources from a place of wisdom in this country. And I meet a lot of people. I consume a lot of media. I know who's out there. I've interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people on this show since 2010, some of which are incredibly well known. Jay Widener, Freeman. I've interviewed the who's who in the realm of conspiracy and awakening consciousness, and I'll put June O'Brien up there with anybody. And guess what? People are buying June's books because she opens a doorway to their mind, their heart, and their spirit. And I'll have Shauna come back on when she gets this book up and running, is this cookbook for vets, so that hopefully she can have the same experience. But you can still support her by going to her website. That's SHONAGH, Shauna Home, HOME. Check her out, look at her work, give her a little boost so she can continue her work. You know, this is what we're here to do. This is part of the new economy. Somebody gave me a $10 donation yesterday. I can't tell you how much that means to me, because that allows me to come on here for 2 hours, talk, piss people off, get people engaged. It allows me to bring guests on the show every now and then. It keeps my lights on. That $10 donation means a world to me in what I do. And I've been thinking about doing a fundraiser and trying to, put some more money together here for the operation. So one of the things I want to put out there today, right now, if you're listening to me, and I'm going to give you a pretty broad time period here. Let's go to November 2nd. How about that? 7 days. 7 days. Any donation, and I mean any donation, no matter what you donate, no matter what amount you donate, I'll tell you what you'll get from me. You'll get my webinar on Chiron, and you'll get my webinar on the True Node. How's that sound? Any donation, you'll get those. 5, 10, 15, whatever. I'm going to send them out to you. So you can do that through my website, robertphoenix.com. Those seminars, by the way, are close to 2 hours each. And they're about the True Node, which is your purpose, Chiron, the healer within. You get the recording, and you get the PDFs that go along with that. my gift to you for any donation. RobertPhoenix.com, you can make that happen. So we're part of a network. We need to support each other because this is the new Underground Railroad. This is the new system of repatriation of our spirits. We have the tools at our disposal. We need to use them while we can. We need to move out of the morass of ennui and entropy and start to build. This is my challenge on a daily basis. I do this by myself. I do it alone, although some people do help me from time to time and have helped me. For those of you that have, I am deeply grateful. Deeply grateful. And I appreciate your help. And I appreciate your patronage. But we have to keep our spirits up for ourselves and for other people. This is the time. We can't lag. We cannot be slouching towards Bethlehem. It's not the time to do that. This is the time to pick it up. This is the time where, we do a gut check with our hearts and with our minds, with our spirits. It's essential. Absolutely essential. November 2nd, what a day. What a day, a revolutionary day. The day of the Balfour Declaration and the first real Soviet party, the seeds of the revolution all take place on that same day. A day that changes the rest of the world for hundreds of years. Absolutely hundreds of years. All right, why don't we wrap it up? I'm sure I could probably go through some more content. Oh, God, I'm going to do this. Maybe I'll do this on Monday. I have a bit of a prank that I want to pull off. Let's leave that for Monday with 15 minutes of flame. Because if I do this, I'd get out of the rhythm right now. I'll be back on Sunday night, and we'll be doing the live stream. I'm going to try to do a simulcast on Blog Talk Radio because there are still people who want and listen to the show on Blog Talk, but I've been doing the live stream on YouTube for the 11th House experience. So let's see if we can do both of those together. And that's it. That's it. We've got Halloween coming up. We've got a new moon. We've got Strange Clowns, November 2nd. It's a great time to be alive. Absolutely great time to be alive. If there's anybody listening. Nope, they're all gone now. All right, let's call it a wrap, boys and girls. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have an amazing weekend. And I'll see you all on Friday night for 11th House Radio. Here's Philip K. Dick.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything!
It can happen to anyone. You're about to hit channel 81 to watch Animals Gone Loco, but you accidentally hit 811 instead. And just like that, you're watching the turnip growing marathon on the Farmers Network. And you're thinking, am I paying for this channel? Oh yes, you are. Thankfully, with Amazon Channels, you pay only for channels you want to watch, including premium ones like Showtime and Stars. No cable required. So goodbye, Farmers Network, and hello, Amazon Channels.